Sometimes last week, the issue of PANDORA papers were flying about Nigeria, and some names were given as those culprits who were mentioned in that investigation. And people will say, what is PANDORA papers? According to what we have here, PANDORA papers are 11.9 million leaked documents with 2.9 terabytes of data that the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists published beginning on the 3rd of October 2021. The leak exposed the secret offshore accounts of 35 world leaders, and including current and former presidents, prime ministers, and head of state, as well as more than 100 billionaires, celebrities, business leaders, and so many others were mentioned, and Nigerians were among those mentioned. This morning we have in the studio a quantity surveyor and a public analyst who will be looking with us, who will be looking at the topic that we brought to the fore this morning, which is PANDORA papers, and we are looking at it with the illicit financial flow. What is the connection between them, and how can we curb it? That is our topic this morning, and in the studio with us is Mr. Ayuade Shoronke. He's a quantity surveyor and public analyst. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. It's good to be here.
Okay, let me start like this, Moses. I want to start. Why is people from outside the country investigating Nigerians? Do they have that right to investigate? And don't we have right for us to own any property we want to own outside or within Nigeria?
In my own opinion, they really didn't just investigate Nigerians. It was more of a global investigation. Okay. Like you said in your introductory presentation, they investigated a lot of financial transactions that were concealed from their nationalities. Sure, you understand? They did a kind of an investigative journalism globally. So it was not just Nigerians. Okay. People that were investigated goes beyond Nigerians. So it's only unfortunate that we have Nigerians mentioned among the people that were investigated, and they were kind of made culpable by the reports that they had illicit funds, or they had funds that were stacked offshore, and I mean nobody is able to trace it or to kind of track such funds. So I think if they have done a global work, I don't think it's wrong. Okay. I don't think it's wrong. Okay. In fact, it's something that I think we should encourage locally. And it's kind of, I believe Premium Times was involved in the investigation, but it's kind of an eye-opener to let us know the weakness in many of our institutions, because if you take the investigative journalist to bring out such revelation, what is EFCC doing? What is ICPC doing? What is Code of Conduct Bureau doing? These are structures that we have within the country that should actually be able to detect some of these transactions. And they've been there for some time now. So are we saying that all these transactions went without the notice of these three anti-corruption, as it were, bodies that we have within the country? So it is to tell us that we still have a long way to go in terms of the structures to fight corruption, and probably even the personnel to be able to do due diligence when it comes to tracking some of these illicit financial transactions. So
are we saying that the people do not have right to have offshore accounts or have a property outside their own country?
I don't think what the investigation did was to challenge people having offshore accounts or taking their funds abroad. What they're trying to point out is they have stacked it in institutions where it's difficult for you to kind of trace. And apart from that, they've also, in some instances, used proxy. So it's not something that you can say is directly linked to them. It was the investigation that revealed the people behind such funds. Some of these funds, they have it there. The institution that they have stacked it in is the one managing it for them. So you really won't see them. What they just get is the proceeds of those funds. So in such instance, it means somebody, Yoruba people will always tell you that if you don't have anything to hide, There are some things that you are not afraid to come public with.
But is it wrong to hide one's wealth?
The question is, why do you want to hide your wealth?
Okay, maybe I should put it this way. Is it wrong to have offshore companies or accounts?
It's not wrong to have offshore investments. It's not wrong to have offshore companies. But why should those offshore companies be hidden to your country? Some of these people some of them are public officials. When they were signing the Code of Conduct Bureau form, asset declaration form, did they include those offshore investments in the asset declaration forms? While they were getting into the political office and while they were leaving the political office?
Some of them claim that these assets or companies were co-owned and they are not liable to name assets or companies that were co-owned with others.
I don't want to believe that is the position of our laws. Because the law expects you to state where you have interest. So if it's co-owned, it means you have interest there. It's just like me having shares in some company. When I'm doing my asset declaration form, I should declare my shares. I should declare my equity in a company. So that when that company, see, some of these things on the surface, when they make such presentation to tell you, oh, they are not bound to disclose, it looks like a good argument. But the reality is that if I'm a public official and I'm sitting down, assuming I'm a sitting governor, and my government is supposed to award contracts, and the government is awarding contract to a company that I have interest in, how do I justify that there will not be sharp practices? Or how do I justify that the officials, government officials that are supposed to do their checks and balances on that contract will not be afraid of me, knowing that I am an interested party in that meeting?
Okay, but what about private individuals? Because some private individuals were also indicted. If it's forbidden for public officials to have offshore companies or accounts, but is it also forbidden for private individuals?
It's not forbidden for private individuals, but I think the reason why those private individuals were exposed is because some of these funds that we're talking about escaped the tax net. And when you talk of tax fraud all over the world, there is no nation that kind of publicly tolerates tax fraud.
But do you really pay tax on offshore assets? Because most times when you set up an offshore companies or account, it's always in tax haven, where you are not really liable to pay the taxes on those assets.
The reality of tax is that if those funds are going from here, there are some tax that are payable before it leaves the shores of this country. Were they paid? I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. If you have invested it there, yes, the tax will account to the nation where you have invested it. But before the funds leave Nigeria, the tax accruable to the Nigerian government, to the Nigerian people, has it been paid? I think those are the issues. And that is where many of them seems to be culpable. The people that did the investigation, this is what they want us to see. We keep saying that many people are not within the tax net. And we keep increasing tax instead of increasing the people that are within the net. And the reality in Nigeria that we all know is that many Nigerians who are big men in quotes either don't pay or pay less than what they are supposed to pay. In some other countries, the more you earn, the more you pay. In Nigeria, outside the civil servants and maybe some committed individuals, very people pay tax. And the reality of tax is that even the civil servants that pay tax, the government deducts their tax, but it's not, I don't see tax of civil servants as valuable for government to do anything. Because the government is the one paying them. So they deduct it. It's not something that you can call accruable resources for the government to use. What is accruable is really the ones coming from the private sector. From the private sector. So if majority of the people that pay tax in Nigeria are civil servants and those who are in multinationals and some corporate organizations, and we should also understand that even some of our tax laws are even weak, which makes it easy for people to evade tax. So some of those things, when you look at it, I think the investigative journalists that did this work, what they wanted us to know is that some of these people who live big actually evade tax or are not paying as much as they ought to pay. So when the government keeps complaining that, oh, tax is not coming in, money is not coming in, it's trying to tell them that you are looking where you're not supposed to look. There are areas that you're supposed to look at that you're not looking at. It's the average Nigerian that is working, that you are taking his personal income tax. How about all these people doing all these big business, big transactions? There are a lot of wire transfers going on every second, every minute in Nigeria. Some of those wire transfers, in connivance with some of these bank officials, are being done. And Nigeria is not getting any tax as a result of those funds.
Well, the revelation is not new. I could recall 2016, the Panama Papers, 2017, Paradise Papers. And the question is, won't this go the way of previous leaks? I know that coalition of civil society organizations now calling on the federal government to also investigate.
Honestly, in my own opinion, I'm not too expectant of the government to do anything serious about this. In the first instance, some of the people that I mentioned, people who have been in government at one time or the other, that politically exposed people. Those who are businessmen in Nigeria today, there is a thin line between who a businessman is and who a politician is. So before you know what is happening, connections will be brought into play and you will not hear anything. Particularly when we have situations whereby we have some of these business mongols making donations to some of these politicians when it's time for electioneering campaigns and the rest. So how do you get money from some of those who have been mentioned and you're now asking EFCC to run after them? I mean, it's just like chasing shadows at the end of the day. So I am not expectant. But one thing that this has always done when it's exposed to the public is that at least the public know there is a kind of a depreciation in the personalities that are exposed. Whether you like it or not, they have some personality loss. Those who have been mentioned. And if you look at the list of those, most Nigerians that are mentioned, many of them are not even people that are very active in the current government. I would have loved to see such an investigation maybe a year or two from now that would now capture people that are within this government. Of course, we know a lot is also still happening that is being covered up, even though, I mean, we might not have the facts and the figures. Some of these people that I mentioned, maybe if they were in government, maybe you wouldn't even have heard about some of these investigations. Some of the papers that leaked, they were leaked through the people that they used, the organizations that they used to do the transaction. They leaked the papers and the investigative journalists were able to get their hands on some of these facts. Let them come out and deny. Any one of them that thinks they've been wrongly accused, let them probably go to court and prove their innocence.
Okay, Mr. Shorunke, let's look at the connection of these offshore accounts and having property outside Nigeria. In quotes, invading tax in their own country and evading in the other country too. Would it build up this act of corruption? Because if you invade tax here and the other country your property is, you are invading tax also. That means you are trying to cut corners and encourage corruption. So what is the link between this investigation and corruption?
There is a thin link between this investigation and corruption. And I call it a thin link because generally in Nigeria, we do not ask questions about where you got your wealth from. I mean, the moment anybody is able to acquire properties, acquire wealth, nobody bothers about where the money comes from. We have a lot of people all over town, all over the nation, having properties. In fact, when the last minister for petroleum was investigated and they started naming the number of properties he had all over the country, I mean, I was amazed for an individual. But the reality is that we run a system that does not ask where you got your money from. All they just want, even when people make public, nobody asks questions. There was a time I was listening to a chartered accountant and he was asking, years back, he was asking a question that a permanent secretary having 2-3 kids in a private university should come and prove to him that is financing those kids with his salary? These are questions that we should be asking. These are questions that the government should be asking. These are questions that are being asked in some other countries. A close associate bought a car recently. I won't mention the name of the country. And I was just joking that, oh boy, it means you have money. He said, what do you mean? Even if I have that kind of money, I would never take it to the car shop to buy a car. Now I'm buying it on hire purchase. Because the moment I drop such a cash, before I get home, somebody is waiting for me to ask me where I got the money from. That doesn't happen yet. Until our anti-corruption crusade gets to that extent, where we begin to question the source of people's wealth, it's going to be difficult to fight corruption.
So whose responsibility it is?
It's the responsibility of the government. It's the responsibility of its agencies. Many of these transactions goes under the watch of CBN, goes under the watch of EFCC. Why are we looking away?
But they are also indicted in all of this investigation.
Why
would they now go against what they are into?
The first thing I said here is that we have these weak institutions. Okay. Let me kind of complicate the issue. While I was growing, my dad is biased into accountancy. His bias is accountancy. He told me that at a time in the civil service, when the office of the Auditor General queries a particular transaction, you as a public official, you are always interested in trying to clear your name. But do you know in Nigeria today, one of the agencies of government that is poorly funded is the office of the Auditor General. And most people don't, even our lawmakers, don't even question it. Whether at the state level or at the federal level. We have a situation where in this country, they were telling us that many of our embassies have not been audited for a very long time. These are embassies collecting money for visa application and the rest. So what has been happening to those money? Nobody has been asking questions. So when you have a system that runs like that, it's going to be difficult for you to fight corruption in such a system. I mean, we've had a lot of pension fraud. We've had a situation whereby cleaners have millions in their accounts, even in pensions office. How did the cleaner get such money? And this money were traced to the pension of retired civil servants. They were not paid. So when you have a system that allows such a thing, it's definitely going to be difficult to fight corruption.
Okay, so, Mr. Shirunke, legal principle states that you are not guilty until proven guilty. Now, almost everyone indicted has come out to deny. Don't benefit of the.
We should give them benefit of the doubt. The question is how to defend themselves. Will the public accept their defense in trust? The trust deficit is there. Okay, we've had situations whereby somebody in this country was accused of fraud, and instead of being, prosecuted under the criminal code, he was prosecuted under the penal code. And when he was fined, he just opened his boot and paid the fine. That is a legal system. They're supposed to punish an offender. The court established that he's an offender. But we have two codes. One is asking him to pay a fine, which is less than the amount that has been established that he stole. And he opened his boot and paid. And in the face of the law, he has fulfilled his punishment. Some people advise that he should not be tried under the criminal code. He should be tried under the penal code. Why? So you see the intricacies even in our legal system. Do we have a legal system that guarantees justice? So if somebody comes out and says, and defends himself, he will defend himself because he knows the kind of legal system that
so you are saying some people are riding on the shortcomings of the Constitution.
Of course, of the Constitution and of our legal system. Before you know what is happening, if they are to be prosecuted, you see them bringing 10, 15 sons to come and sit with them. Somebody stole $1 billion, he's willing to share 500 million with sons to defend him in court. And at the end of the day, they defend him, they find the technical, legal.
That's not even peculiar to Nigeria.
It's all over.
Because I could recall when the president talked about the bottlenecks, in the legal system, why it's very hard, to prosecute those indicted in one corrupt, practice or the other. So that's not even peculiar to Nigeria.
It's not peculiar to Nigeria. It's not peculiar even to any section of this country. It's all over. But you see, that's why I said it's a difficult situation to fight corruption. You don't fight corruption when you have weak institutions and when you have weak structures. If you want to fight corruption, you must have strong institutions and you must have strong structures. But the reality of Nigerian system is that we don't have any of the two. Why? Because for you to have any of these two, you must have the strong individual that will establish the strong institutions and the strong structure.
Okay, we'll be having this quick stop now to allow our second guest coming into the set. And when we come back, we'll continue with what we'll be discussing. Pandora Papers, curbing illicit financial flow in Nigeria. We'll see you again.
Yes. One day as I did dab, they go. Now I might see my neighbor on top electric pole. Don't be hammer you hold so before. So climb every day. Come on, electric bill. You not gree pay. Waiting concern you for there. I beg you. Come over here. Government property. Now my property. If you don't come down now, I go report. Don't be only report. Now report card. Okay, oh. Dab 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 dab.
Make una no sit down look o.
Why don't you people sell imported materials here?
You're welcome, ma.
As beautiful as the shop is.
Auntie, buying foreign goods does not help our economy. Neither does it boost local production. And the good thing is Nigerian-made products are high quality. Really? And to make Nigeria great again. That is why I only sell made in Nigeria products. Because change begins with me.
I'm convinced. Change begins with me too. Change begins with me.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
You're welcome back from that little break, and we have a second guest in the studio. He's a chartered accountant and economist who will be looking at the economy aspect of this illicit financial flow and looking at the Pandora Papers investigation. Is Dr. Mukaila Ademoyewa. Good morning, Doctor.
Thank you.
You're welcome to
so
the Newdawn program.
Thank you.
Now, let's look at the economy side now. that says Nigeria loses over $15 billion annually to illicit financial flow. That is as at 2020. So what is this illicit flow, losing money, and some people, some Nigerians are still indicted? Don't you think, don't they think about the love of the country and the development of the country?
Let's say the illicit transfer which is being talked about does not just mean corruption of stealing money. It includes tax evasion by multinational companies. Smuggling is part of it. The activities of smugglers is part of it. Lot of things that has to go on the normal way. Even terrorist finance. People financing terrorists, they don't go through the normal channels. So anything that has to do with laundering money or taking money illegally out of the economy is defined as illicit money or financial transfer. And if we want to go to that level of definition, now found that the tax being paid, how much of the tax is coming? Or like he has said before, the structure is problem. Somebody who is expected to receive the money will go there and tell them that, give me 10,000, pay 5,000 to the government. In our ports, you see a lot of things happening there. Of recent, you see, if they say 15 billion, even the International Monetary Fund said it is not possible for them to say exactly what is going on, how much is being lost. Because there are so lot of things that is going on which they cannot explain. So the little they are now announcing is based on balance of trade, transaction reconciliation. That okay, Nigeria did a business of 1 billion with Morocco. At the end of the day, the money that comes in or came in from Nigeria is around 1.3 billion. Where is this excess 3 billion coming in when there is no business to back it up? Right? That is what they are talking about, the 15 billion. What of the others? Look at it. You find out that there are some things you sell in Nigeria which are cheaper than the place where they are bringing them. They are part of illicit transaction. Because when they buy, they take cocaine or any other drugs to the overseas country. When they are coming in, they cannot bring the money. They buy products of their country at a higher price. Any money seen by the armed robber is a profit. So when they bring them in, they now sell them cheaper to recover the money. This is part of it. And at the end of the day, the impact on the economy is that, I want the foreign one, Nigerian loan is too expensive for me to buy.
And they still make money.
And they still make money.
Okay, well, Dr. Ademuyiwa, we have established that it is legal for private individuals to have offshore companies or accounts. But when does it become illegal for them?
Well, it has been before. I think it was Obasanjo regime that says that anybody that is a public figure or whoever is in Nigeria should not hold such an account.
For private individuals now?
For private individuals, they should not open them. That is, it has been like that. But the fact is, at the end of the day, they now register company and load that money to sneaking monies and how to those register company. You said individual, yes. You know that there's still an account in the central bank where they say that if you want to go out, instead of your estate code, you can just buy through all those things. Are you getting me now? So they buy the return tickets that they are coming and they buy $100, get their $100 every week in 3-4 accounts and sell 470 from central bank, sell 560 to the outsiders. All these things are illicit. So see, you have mentioned it before I came in. And that is the fact, structural problem. So there are so many. You see, the law, those who are in charge know the cause. And at any point in time, they want to prevent the cause. Whereas they are the people that will, before they tell you the consequence and the cost of what you are doing, they are the people that will suggest ways out. Are you getting me now? So in Nigeria, I can tell you that if they tell you that don't do this one, it's because they want to make it higher, not because they want to prevent it. I mean, look at last report where they said somebody has financed this Boko Haram with over 3 point something billion in the last 18 months. Where is he getting the money? Where is he getting the money? So it's a serious thing, and the activities of smugglers, how much have we stopped it? Republic of Benin has nothing. Republic of Benin has nothing, because if you just go around, they are living on importation. And Nigeria has lots. We are still going there to bring in those things. And all the while, nobody has been able to control these things. If we are making, say, 100,000 on every car coming to Nigeria, you know how many cars are coming to Nigeria every day? And if you go to the Republic of Benin there, you see a lot of the cars there. It's Nigerians that bring them
in. They're even waiting for Nigerians to come and buy.
So can you define how much we are losing from there? And economically, like you have said, it's really affecting us. The unemployment in Nigeria today is 1/3 of working population. With a working population of over 23 million people looking for a job, over, let's say, 7 point something million of that working population are not working. And those who are working, almost 20% of them are just working below 20 hours per week. But if all these monies are there, right, our electricity will improve. All those things, there is already problem in our education system. Because even if you are talking of unemployment, is our graduates employable? We don't have employable graduates again.
But some of our graduates, they go overseas, and we see them make waves. Come up with.
Let me put it better. People go overseas and study the system, not from this system.
Well, maybe we should say some of our graduates, and we shouldn't generalize.
We may not generalize.
Some are employable.
No, we are saying most of them. I'm not saying not all of them.
Okay, Mr. Shorunke, let's look at the political angle of this story now. Some people are saying some individuals are giving out their names just to witch hunt them. That's why their names are coming out from this investigation. Do you believe that thought?
I don't want to believe. I don't want to believe, and I'll tell you the reason why I don't want to believe. If you are saying that they are giving out your name, why are you why are you on the list in the first instance?
For political reasons.
Why are you on the list in the first instance? That's the question I will ask you. It's just like, a thief caught, and he's telling you that, oh, they caught me because I didn't share in the loot. Why were you involved in the first instance? And I made a statement earlier on that I would have loved a situation by this same investigation will be carried out in another 1 or 2 years. Because, like I said, most of those mentioned are not people who are currently in government. But they were, at one point or the other, in government. So let's see what would happen. Because a lot of people have gotten into that net that were not investigated. Or probably that the investigation didn't cover. So I don't want to see it as a witch hunt. I believe that from what I read, that investigation is not something that was just done. It's an investigation that started a while back. Probably they were unable to capture many of those who were in this government. They just came in but now, so I don't want to see it as a witch hunt. If many of those who were listed are people in opposition, this was not an investigation based on any political arrangements or it was purely an investigative journalism. So if it was based purely on investigative journalism, I don't want to believe let the investigation continue and let us see if others will not get into that net.
Okay, Dr. Ademura, let's look at the political will. We've talked about the structures now, the institutions and what. Who are those people to push those institutions if the political will of the government or the people who are supposed to be in authority are not enough to push these institutions? Who are we to blame then?
Well, you see, I'm going now as an accountant, and I want to say it the way it should be. The financial paper said the head, the most senior, that is, in any place or at all, in any organization or establishment, the commissioners and other political appointees are ceremonial heads of those institutions. And the accounting officer shall be held responsible. And in the state today now, the accounting officer is the PS Finance. And he shall be accountable for every money given to the states or going out of the states. In this place now, the accounting officer is a GM. It's not the chairman of this place. So if you want to go to that financial paper now, right, that means the structure themselves and our head civil servants. And that is why the civil servants should be held responsible for all institutional breakdown. If you tell your boss this cannot be done, you will go and I'll be here tomorrow. You will have to do what. But it is these people that will tell them this is how to do it and get out of it. Are you getting me now? You see, look, Nigeria has good plans. We are bad. People are bad. In every department or structures, you have what we call audit alarm committee. The duty of audit alarm committee is to inform the government or the necessary channels whenever you see that there is something that is going on bad, which will affect the public interest.
You're talking about the government. What about the multinationals too?
So, no, I'm coming to that.
Okay.
Are you getting me now?
Yeah.
So, at the end of the day, what are these audits and so? That is government and corruption aspect of Nigeria.
Okay.
But to talk about the multinationals, I have said it before, right? We have not, our tax law is clear. Residency, who collects money and all those things is clear in the area of the tax law. Are you getting me now? But the evasion and other things that is happening in tax is Nigerians. And if you want to curb that one too, you still have the career officer are no more working in tax office. It's everywhere, not only in Ogun State. The career officer who are supposed to be taking the money, then you now have the work of the consultants. Where does the consultants come into the government work?
You said that tax laws are clear.
Yes.
Because I could recall that he said our laws are weak, but how strong are these tax laws?
No, the laws are not weak. It's the implementation of the law that is weak.
Okay.
It's not that the law that is weak. Are you getting me? Where does the plea bargaining come into Nigerian law? Is there any thing like plea bargaining in law? When somebody is arrested, he has stolen over 16 billion, and it's now said he's going to plea bargaining, he's refunding 1 billion.
He goes away with 15 billion.
He goes away with 15 billion. Where is it in the law? Tell me. The law, in petroleum profit tax, CITA and all of those laws, they are clear because they have seen problems and they have blocked the loopholes.
So who brought plea bargaining?
That's what I ask you people, you press people. You have to investigate too. I don't know, but it's not in law. Even in criminal case now, there's plea bargaining. When somebody kills somebody and they said he confessed in the house and they have arranged how many months he's going to spend in prison.
Well, maybe only lawyers will be able to tell us.
So maybe you call them, because it's not my area.
Okay. So we may not make any position on that. But we've heard from almost everyone indicted denying maybe their involvement. You as a chartered accountant, how tenable is this explanation?
Nobody will accept that he's a thief, even if you caught him with what he has stolen. Are you getting me now? But it's not possible for anybody to be indicted without a clear evidence. There's an evidence for that indiction. So for somebody now to say, no, I don't, no. There are papers. You cannot just bring somebody and say you are a thief without bringing the evidence that he's a thief. There are documents, right? That I'm not a thief on the paper means that he's begging inside. Plea bargaining is still going on. A lot of things, so I don't believe that. It's not possible, whether you are in opposition or in the current party. Yes, when you are not in my party, I can withhold you for now. When it's my own party too, you will be withholded. Okay,
gentlemen, we've analyzed what the Pandora papers is looking at and how to curb tax inflation, corruption, and all that. Now, let's profile solution. Let's look forward now. How do we curb illicit financial flow? Especially in Nigeria, we are not seen to be developing very well with our name, with our structure, and how people are seeing us outside the shores of Nigeria. So how are we going to curb this illicit financial flow, especially so that we can develop the country?
Let me, I don't want to create an impression that is impossible to curb.
Okay.
The first thing is for us to admit that the illicit financial flow is doing a lot of harm to our economy as a nation. And as a people, we now decide that it has to stop. Many of us are quick to point to those in government. But the reality is that what I've noticed over time is every Nigerian is looking for an opportunity. The moment he has the opportunity to cheat the system, it is difficult, with all due respect, it's difficult for you to get a Nigerian that will have an opportunity to cheat the system and not cheat the system. So the first thing has to be from us individually. This narrative has to change. Like he was saying earlier on, if the laws are there, but the operators of the law are creating the lacuna in implementation for people to escape. Somebody has evaded tax, and the tax official is asking him, don't worry, just bring so amount and we'll sort it out for you. The man escaped. Next year, he'll come back and do the same thing. Or somebody has arrested him for a corrupt practice, and the man is saying that, okay, don't worry, just take care of the evidences. Tamper with the evidence. We have corruption cases that have gone on for 8-9 years. In this same country, evidences have been tampered with, witnesses have been tampered with. How do you successfully prosecute such a person? So and the law presumes him innocent until proven guilty. So when the evidences are lost, when the witnesses are lost, how do you successfully prosecute? So when we are looking at it, we should look at it from a global perspective, not just look at it from a myopic, which I think is what the government has been doing, and that is why the government has been failing. There has to be a global perspective to corruption in Nigeria. You have to look at changing the orientation of Nigerians, first. 2, provide the structures and the institutions that will give a watertight implementation to our laws. When people get involved, ensure that we have a system that does not allow evidences to be hidden. We have seen situations whereby even documentary evidences are lost. We have seen situations whereby some of our INEC offices are burnt. So how do you now get all the documents that you need to confirm that there was fraud in an election or not? If the office that is supposed to, they're supposed to keep those documents is being burnt. There are banks that have been burnt. There are government institutions that have been burnt just to cover up some of these things. So if such a thing are being allowed, it's going to be difficult for us to prosecute corruption. So let's take it from institutional, get the institution to be very strong, get the structures to be very strong, and we also need strong individuals. And that's why I started from we ourselves having the orientation that things has to change. On the case of plea bargaining that he mentioned, if you go to some other nations, there is plea bargaining. Even in some of these criminal cases that we're talking about, if somebody says that, oh, I have a very bad case, he owns up, confesses to the crime, and they can lessen, the punishment. But the reality is that it's not like just giving the person a pat on the back of the hand. It will actually be a punishment. Somebody has stolen, like you said, 16 billion naira. You ask him to pay back 1 billion and he goes away with 15 billion. And you are saying you have done plea bargaining. That is not plea bargaining. That is fraud. You have only supported him to go away with the larger chunk of what he has stolen. Why not take everything, including interest, from him and allow him to go free and bring the funds back into the system?
Okay. Dr. Ademoyewa, let's talk about financial outflow now, because I think that's what the PANDORA papers know all about. So how can we curb the outflow, the illicit outflow of finance or funds?
One, very germane, is one, structural building. We have to look at our structures again. To me, at home, capital punishment for the people that is caught is not too much. That is number one.
But number two, the one is not even, because countries are now abolishing capital punishment.
No, there are some ways you can do it. Are you getting me now? Likes money, let's give him the money. Life imprisonment with hard working. Our prisoners or people in correctional something should not just be going there hit and something. Let's have a big farm. Let's have a big farm. They can produce the food we need in the prison. Life imprisonment, we will be working for us, for the nation. That is number one. Number two, there is a need for cooperation among the nations. These monies are going to somewhere. Let the money enter and let us be informed. There is a need for cooperation. It's not something that can be within a country alone. Right? So there's a need for cooperation among the nations. Okay. If this thing has to be done, especially in Africa. Like the lootings are returned of IMF and others. Are you getting me now? So, as part of the cooperation, our double tax law, right, needs to be revisited. Because I don't hear anything about it again. There should be cooperation in tax too. When there is a cooperation, even when you are bringing your money, taking your money away on a capital flight or anything, when it gets to that place, you know that where the money is going, it will be higher. Then you will have to return it back. Are you with me now? So, but if the things continue to be like beggar my neighbor, as an economist put it, because what we have in the world today is beggar my neighbor. Even if my neighbor is poor, as long as I can give him something to eat, I'll be better off. So if that beggar my neighbor policy is abolished and international, then I think things will be improved. Because Britain wants us to continue to beg. America wants us to. They should see if we can see ourselves as friends and not as a boy. Then I think things will also.
Okay. Because I'm looking at the workability of that. We have some countries that are tax havens. We talk about Switzerland, Cayman Island, Panama. So as long as we have them as tax havens, is this workable? Talking about the international collaboration towards curbing illicit financial outflows.
You see, like I said, it's not something that Nigerian can just say in Nigeria. it involves the international, there is a body that brings us together. Abi?
Yes.
We all belong to International Monetary Fund, we all belong to the World Health. So this situation, they can just help the Africa if they want to help us. It's not that our tax law, there will be some things that everybody knows, but it will only be possible if there is a cooperation. You see, Obasanjo time, he travels a lot. And why? To seek cooperation and understanding. And a lot of things were achieved. Of recent, when Atiku was talking, he said the president, Obasanjo, former president, said he should go and study international relations. That is so, and he has been there for over 1 year. That was what, if you are going through the papers, it's your job anyway. I can't say that. Are you getting me now? So you now find that this international cooperation is possible if we have the leaders who can make things work. Whatever be your role, please, this is my own country. I need your assistance. Let's negotiate. Others have been coming. You see, Nigeria is blessed. We have everything anybody will need. So with that power, if we use that power on them, we'll get anything we need from them.
Okay.
It's only that we have been selling ourselves rather than allowing people to come and buy us. We are going there to sell ourselves. If they are coming to buy, then give them the price. Are you getting me now? We are in Africa today, we are almost the second largest market. Everybody wants to come and sell in Nigeria. So, and there is nothing they need which we cannot provide for them apart from the market. Producer of coal, producer of petrol, producer of this, producer of that, which they need. Go through the express, you see how many lorries are going to Lagos for coal exportation, and it's wasting in Igbo or another areas like that, which they need seriously. So if we are buying our coal, what are you bringing down? Our money is coming to your country. How do you refund it? What are you doing to help us? Otherwise, no more coal.
Okay, that's what we will have on the segment of the show where we've been talking about Pandora Papers and the curbing illicit financial flow, especially as it affects Nigeria. And our guests have been able to tell us what they think Nigerians and Nigeria should do about curbing illicit financial flow. They talked about developing the institutions, developing our wills, and having strong men who will take up the mantle and ensure that things run very well. And that's how we'll go on the segment. When we come back, it will be another discussion segment, and our guests will be on the show to take us through what we have on our topic. See you on the other side.